3, 2, 1.
Day breaks, mind aches. I'll be running when my feet hit the ground.
Welcome to From One Mom to Another with Cindy Anderson.
I subscribe to the belief that women need women.
As a mother of 7, she is versed in all aspects of the triumphs, joys, and challenges of parenting.
Tap into your own strengths and trust that you are the best mother your children ever had.
And
Give yourself some credit.
take some time to breathe.
You are doing better than you think.
Now here's Cindy.
You are all doing better than you think. Welcome to From One Mom to Another. We are so glad that you are listening, and as usual, I am here with my daughter, Stephanie Taylor. We thought we would explore the meaning of the phrase, you are doing better than you think, when it comes to mothering. Before we get started today, I want to say that as we discuss and share some of our mistakes or misjudgments as mothers, our comments are aimed at everyday type mistakes and not to be mistaken for minimizing the effects of physical or mental abuse. If you are a victim of either, we would encourage you to seek help, or if you have issues with abuse regarding your children, there is help available. Please reach out to your local community, friends, or church leaders. I don't know if you remember this, Stephanie, but one day you called me up and said, I think I broke Avery.
I don't, but I have had that thought several times about several of my children.
You could probably, and me too, we probably on very many occasions feel like we've broken our children, but I mean, indeed you did not. I don't really remember now what it was that had occurred, but
I'm sure she's fine.
I'm sure she's fine. And after our discussion, you went back and talked to her and worked it out. But we all feel that. I mean, we all feel like, we're going to scar our children for life. That what we do and what we say and the situations that maybe we don't handle with the best grace and aplomb. Yeah, that's right. But here's the truth. There's a couple truths here, but the first one is just despite our best efforts, we're going to send our kids out the door with baggage. That's just, and then they're going to marry someone with their baggage. Right. And, they're going to raise kids and send them out the door with their baggage. And that is the circle of life. And I think that, if we can remember that and just be a little softer on ourselves, when we do those things that we wish we hadn't or didn't handle very well, that's just because we're not perfect. We're not perfect, and our children aren't perfect. And I think in this circle of life that there's a point when children just realize that their parents did the best they could. And this usually happens when they become parents. And
when we all of a sudden realize that it's not easy and that there are low points. You're handed this little bundle of personality and opinions that don't always work with yours, and you're looking around for that textbook of,
right,
how to parent, and it's not there, and you panic, and you hear your parents coming out of your mouth as you repeat the things they said to you or did to you. And,
right. Well, and you realize how little your parents really knew. Right. Because go ahead. I had my children when I was in my 20s. What do you know in your 20s?
But, as a little kid, you think your parents are perfect. And so when they have low points or they have a parenting fail, you don't really reconcile the fact that, that was a fail on their part.
Right.
You're mad at them, but you don't recognize it as a fail.
Yeah, you can't think it out like you're going to when you become an adult and have children of your own especially. And I think what happens, again, back into this circle of life, is that there just comes a time where everybody forgives everybody. Yeah. You forgive your parents for not being perfect, for, just not maybe handling things correctly. And parents just, we forgive our children, and we allow, those teenage years maybe, and we allow them to grow up and become adults, and a new relationship is formed. And really the second point that I make about this is, despite all of this, despite the fact that we're going to be sending them out with baggage, it really isn't as much baggage as we think. A lot of these mom fails crossed fingers, right?
Yeah, you
A
can't
lot of
see.
these mom,
You can't see.
yeah,
My fingers are crossed, listeners.
she's got both fingers crossed. But a lot of these, what we call mom fails, just, the podcast we did about you can't choose your kids' memories, and your
Right.
favorite day was what I thought was my biggest mom fail. So we need to be a little bit softer on ourselves.
Yeah.
So to this point, we thought we would share things we feel bad about regarding our mothering, and I will start. And I'm going to start with my daughter Stephanie, who's here and can actually remembers this particular thing and can speak to it. So at some point, Stephanie started telling me she had pneumonia. And I don't really remember all the reasons, but I just didn't believe it. I thought she was being maybe a bit dramatic. I thought she maybe had a cold. I mean,
Right.
you were coughing, right? Like,
So I was 12 and I was coughing and I kept telling you that my back hurt in between my shoulder blades.
yeah. And I said, and this is a quote, that doesn't mean you have pneumonia. Now, years later, maybe a decade later, I did read an article in which pain between your shoulder blades, as you described so aptly, is a sign of pneumonia.
Right.
But at the time, I just said, oh, I'm sure you just pulled a muscle. You're coughing a little bit. You sound like you have a cold.
Fine.
You're fine. You're fine.
Head to school.
And yeah, you just kept saying, but I don't feel fine. I have pneumonia. So I don't know, maybe 3 days passed, and we kept having this discussion.
Is it impolite for me to
But was it longer?
say I kind of remember it being a little bit longer than 3 days. It's fine.
Okay.
It's water under the bridge.
We're
I'm
gonna
not
stick
so
with-
mad about it.
Yeah,
I'm
we're going to
alone.
stick with 3 days because
Okay.
3 days to a 12-year-old who was sick
Sure,
is
that's
a
fair.
long time. So we're going to stick with 3 days. But it might have been longer. I mean, very possibly could have been. Anyway, one evening I was fixing dinner and you were just telling me just how bad you felt, et cetera. And I turned to your dad and I said, I think we better just take her I think we sent you, we took you to the ER. I said, I don't think she's got pneumonia, but this is just what she's saying. And
Yeah.
let's just go make sure. So your dad took you to the emergency room. And when you came home, you had quite a smile on your face.
Somehow through the heavy lungs and the
That's
cough
right.
away.
Through the sickness, and you declared yourself diagnosed with pneumonia. So I didn't feel really good about myself at that point. And I would just like to say that you probably got the best care ever because a guilty mom,
The chicken soup, the being able to watch movies.
Oh yeah, all of it. So anyway, that was one of my. I'm sure there are more fails that I did with you, but that's the one that we usually talk about and laugh about.
When I was thinking about this today, I knew I had a lot of mom fails, but you always think you're going to remember everything, and as a parent, you just usually don't years later. So I decided to turn the question over to my kids, my oldest
Oh,
three.
that's dangerous.
Well, and I said, hey, share with me any experiences you had where, mom was not at her best. I was not at my best. And it kind of started slowly as like a troll trickle.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of shared a couple of things, kind of tested the waters. And then, okay, have you ever seen a video of a tsunami approaching the shoreline?
Oh, sure. Yep.
That's kind of been what this turned into.
They realized they had a green light.
Yes, this airing of grievances tsunami. And I just kind of laughed. I mean, what else could you do? But Eden, she was about 10 years old. She came home from school and said, Mom, I failed my vision test in my left eye. She said, when I went to go read, the letters, everything looked really blurry. And so the nurse is just going to call you and, that kind
the
of
school nurse, yes.
Well, of course it was blurry. You were holding one hand over your eye while you used the right eye. See, I'm sure you're fine. I'm sure you're fine. Well, then, so I just ignored it. And I told her she was fine. She could see just fine. So then fast forward a year, and then her child she took a vision test there, and the doctor said, she didn't score really well on the vision test. You should go get it looked at. I thought, okay. And kind of that same thing, like, fine. I'll take this child I'm sure can see perfectly to the eye doctor. I just had a baby at the time, so that was fun. And I kind of just walked in there just waiting, kind of the same thing, like just sure the eye doctor was going to be like, yeah, she's fine. But in fact, she said, your daughter has amblyopia in her left eye. And I was like, what is?
That doesn't sound good.
What is that? Basically, my daughter had not been able to see out of her left eye her whole life because it has something to do like the muscles and the nerves and the connection to her eye to her brain. So then she had to wear an eye patch for like 2 years, pretty intensely, because the longer you put off fixing amblyopia, the harder it is to fix. And so she would every time she just had this little eye patch on over her eye and was miserable. And I just, the guilt.
Can I venture to say that is the moment you forgave me for the pneumonia? Right. Well, on the other hand, too, you do these things, and then you overcompensate with the other kids.
Well, sure.
I have a son named Michael, and he said he was having chest pains in his heart. I said, you're not having chest pains in your heart. You've just pulled a muscle. Well, then I remembered the pneumonia.
Yeah.
So $2,000 later with tests, we found out that he did not have a heart problem. So, sometimes you can't win for losing. Okay, so the next mom fail I thought I would share involves my son his name is William. He's my oldest son and my number 2 kid. And it was during the Halloween season, and we were getting up, and I was getting breakfast for the kids and getting everybody ready. And he said, Mom, today is the day we have to have Halloween costumes, and I don't have a costume.
Which, okay, I will say at the start of the story, in your defense, he did just tell you the morning of.
Yes, he did. Now, when he tells a story, he leaves that part out, but
I'm sure.
I'm telling the story. So I thought, okay, well, what can we do? What can we do? And I don't remember whose idea it was, but we decided he could be Frankenstein. And I ran around and I got a pair of moon boots. For those that don't live in snow country, moon boots are like snow boots. They're big. And I thought those could be like his boots. So we put those on him. And then every picture I've seen of Frankenstein, he's worn a vest. Like, doesn't he have a vest?
I think he does. That's right. That tracks.
So I went and got one of your dad's suit vests out of the closet and put it on him. Now, I don't remember how I came up with the green paint for his face, because Frankenstein is green.
Paint?
I don't know.
Because you certainly wouldn't have purchased face paint.
Well, no, I don't know. Maybe it was some eyeshadow or something. I don't know. Anyway, his face was green. Okay, which isn't the worst part of it. So then we're all done. I'm like, oh, he has those socket things that come out of his neck.
The bolts. Yeah.
The bolts. And I thought, what do I do about the bolts? And in a sudden stroke of genius, I went and got 2 curlers. Now,
what color were the curlers, though?
Yeah, they were pink.
Okay.
Didn't think about it at the time. Got some, I don't know how I got them attached. I think with some duct tape or something. I don't know. Anyway, he had 2 pink bolts. Out the door he went.
Pink sponge hair curlers, right?
Yeah, this pink sponge hair curlers. Yep. When he left for school, I gave myself a mom gold star.
A pat on the back.
I thought, oh man, you just saved the day. Well, however, when he came home from school, he informed me that evidently pink sponge curler bolts did not go over well with the other 4th graders.
That's a great story. In the theme of Halloween costumes.
Are you going to talk about the moving box?
I might. Are you okay if I talk about the moving box?
Go away. Talk away. But I'm let me just say, we had moved to Indiana, and the first day of school, we were told that it was going to be costume day, and so I had nothing.
And this story speaks to your resourcefulness because
Sure it does.
you look around.
You're so kind.
And you thought, what do we have on hand? We have moving boxes on hand. So you took a moving box and you cut out armholes for me.
Yes, I did.
I walked in a school parade with my arms in these holes as this big moving box.
Oh, that's so sad.
And I'm not still scarred, but I will say that
it wasn't the most popular costume in the
it
parade.
didn't win any awards.
Yeah.
Nobody said, "Hey, cool costume! I want to be that next year."
Yeah, no. And I would also like to say that once again, I sent you out the door thinking, I just nailed this.
Save the day. You
day.
checked to make sure your cape was still on.
That's
tight,
right.
tightly.
I know.
See, as a parent now, I appreciate that kind of resourcefulness. Like, what else would you do in that circumstance?
Well, right. And it's just one of those things, you know.
So my fourth child, Weston, was about 9 months old, and he woke up one morning just covered in these like red dots. They weren't, they didn't swell. They weren't above the surface. It was a weird rash from his forehead down to his whole body, just out of nowhere. And I thought, wow, this is really strange. So I actually took him into the doctor, and the doctor took a look at it, and then she started looking at the top of his head, like kind of combing through his hair. I was like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
And she said, he's got a really thick case of cradle cap. And I was like, oh yeah, like, he's had it for months, but it's cradle cap. Like
yeah, Weston's your fifth child. They all get it. All babies get it, and it just kind of goes away. And yeah.
Right. Well, I learned some things that day. The cradle cap is a fungus, and if you leave the cradle cap for 9 months, that fungus will spread all over the body, and it causes like a red rash all over the body. So I felt good about that. I'm glad he's not old enough to remember.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that one. He doesn't even remember it.
But I felt great. And then the doctor was nice. And here's a tip for you. The doctor said you can use Seltz Blue on your baby's head as early as 2 months old, and it kills the fungus that causes cradle cap.
Wow.
There's it right up.
That's great.
Who knew?
Who knew? Well, I think this too goes back to the point. You don't know what you know till you know what you know.
Right.
I mean,
and unfortunately, sometimes the kid,
Yeah, you just don't know this stuff, and we can be kind of kind to ourselves about that. We're all going to do things that we regret or realize, really wasn't the best thing. We're not perfect. Our kids aren't perfect. So you can't expect a perfect result. One thing too, in our efforts as a mother, we can apologize when we're wrong. Yeah. Parenting theories come and go, but it used to be that you would never apologize to your child. I mean, kind of like don't let them see you sweat kind of an idea.
Yeah, but so if you're in charge, then you don't apologize for.
Right. But a well-placed apology, a good conversation about how you were feeling, about you didn't know something, or you didn't. Right. You did the best you could. I think really goes a long way with our children.
Well, and along that line, and speaking of mom fails, so my oldest, gosh, she just is our little guinea pig, as all oldest children are.
Aren't they all?
And she, had a problem with hitting and is getting a lot of hand. She also wanted to be a safety patrol at school, and she hit, and I had said, if you hit again, then I'm not going to let you be a safety patrol. And in my mind and in my young mom years, and I was
right.
It seemed like a good logical consequence to say that she couldn't be a safety patrol if she couldn't be nice to her sister. And then she hit her sister again. And so I said, okay, no safety patrol. Anyways, long story short, looking like she was so devastated by it. And I really wish that I had the, you know, foresight to realize, you know what, it would have been okay to apologize, to recognize that, I overreacted, talk about a different kind of consequence for hitting, and maybe done that a little bit differently. And from that point on, I was a lot better about apologizing when I messed up as a mom. And
yeah, and I think that to say that there's never a place for that is not correct. There is a place for apologies, and there is a place for figuring out a better way to do things. And I think those things go a long ways.
Well, and when you show your kids that you're sorry, and it teaches them that, parents make mistakes too, they're going to go into their own parenting with maybe a little more grace for themselves, because they're going to, they're not going to have this idea that their parents always knew what they were doing.
Right. And I think sometimes, we don't want our kids to know we don't know what we're doing.
Right.
And that stems from, that the not wanting to apologize. We're afraid that we'll show that weakness, but really it's not a weakness.
Who wants to be the captain of a boat in rocky waters, and the people think that they don't know what they're doing,
Yeah, right.
You need a captain who knows,
But I think kids get that. I think they get it. If you were to say, you know what, I overreacted there, and that consequence doesn't. Yeah, that really doesn't fit what was going on here, and I'm going to change my mind. And I think that's great. I think that's a great good way to handle that. The bottom line really is that motherhood isn't a scorecard that we keep, and at the end we tally up all the positives and negatives, and that's our score.
Right.
It's about showing up every day, rain or shine, and just doing our best.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we also trust in our kids' ability to forgive and love, and
right.
I am regularly shocked at how much of our lives that we spend together as a family is spent as adults. When you're a kid, you kind of just think you're always going to be a kid, and your parents will always seem like your parents, and your siblings will always be siblings, in their current personalities and interaction type things. But there's so much of life, the vast majority of your family life is spent as adults, and you kind of have a completely different relationships as adults. And so those formative years, when as mom fails or kid fails or whatever you want to call it, like that's just a small blip in your experiences together as a family, and in your growing relationships and
yeah, that is such a good point. And you will spend more years in your adult relationship with your children than you will have, like you're saying, in their childhood years. And we don't have 18 years to get it right, and then that's it.
Right.
We have our whole lifetime. We will be our children's mothers, forever. And
absolutely.
You don't stop being a mother when your children turn 18. So, I think that's a great way to look at that. So today we've shared what we considered some of our mom fails, but the truth is that if I listed my mom successes, I would have a longer list.
Right.
We have more successes than we give ourselves credit for. So I would just say, at the end of this podcast, I would encourage you all to sit down with a paper and a pen or a pencil and write yourself a list. But not your top things you feel bad about, but write down the top things you feel, maybe the top 3 things you feel good about. And at the bottom of the list, write out the words, I am doing better than I think. Well, thanks for listening. And as always, you can contact me at cynthia.anderson@onemomtoanother, or visit me on the website, onemomtoanother.com. If you are interested in my book, One Mom to Another, it is available on Amazon, or you can head to the over to webtalkradio.net and click on my book link. While you're there, check out the other great podcasts on their site. Thanks again, and remember, as always, you are doing better than you think.
I need some harmony.